Zoom, 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 zoom. Get over here, Zoom. Hi. Zoom, 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 zoom. Come on, Zoom.
Okay.
I'm going to be talking to Gil McGowan, president of the Alberta Federation of Labour. He and other union leaders just finished a press conference in Edmonton to talk about how to respond to the UCP government's Bill 2, Back to School Act. Welcome to the interview, Gil.
Hey, Markham.
Give us an overview. What was talked about? What did you announce at the press conference?
Well, the big announcement is that in response to Bill 2 and the UCP's attack on teachers and their constitutional right to associate and participate in strikes, the Alberta labor movement, supported by the broader Canadian labor movement, has decided to make a top priority of toppling the UCP government. We're basically making the argument that worker rights and democracy won't be safe as long as she's premier, and that our goal is to make Danielle Smith a radio show host again, not a premier.
Gil, a lot of people were expecting a general strike, and we've seen on social media and in our audience, there was some disappointment. What do you say to those folks?
Well, I say that a general strike is not off the table. And so what I announced today is that we've prioritized toppling this government because they are a clear and present danger to workers, worker rights, and democracy. And that we are going to use all the tools at our disposal to do that. So that includes throwing the weight of the labor movement behind recall campaigns. So, and, as I said in the press conference, if this government is going to, refuse to shrink class sizes, we're going to do everything we can to shrink the size of their caucus to the point, hopefully, that there would have to be an election. We're also going to support initiative campaigns, so if they want to, defund public education, which is clearly a priority for them, then we're going to do everything we can to defund private schools, which are, the apple of their eye. And then perhaps most importantly, we did address the question that was on everyone's mind, and that's the question of a general strike. And so what I said, and we borrowed some words from wartime Prime Minister Mackenzie King, and put them, updated them for our situation. So we said, not necessarily a general strike, but a general strike if necessary. And that was a little bit tongue in cheek, but, realistically, if we're going to do a general strike, we want it to be big and effective. And anyone who's tried to organize events, especially, and honestly, we've never organized something like a general strike. There hasn't been a general strike in Canada since, 1919 in Winnipeg. So, these are new muscles for us. So, and we're also a very democratic organizations. So what I committed to do on behalf of our Federation of Labour and the Common Front is that, which is the umbrella, even bigger umbrella for unions in the province. We're going to go to all of our unions. All the unions have signed the Solidarity Pact that we put together last year, and we're going to start conversations about the possibility of a general strike. And honestly, the fact that it's going to take us a while is actually a virtue, not something to be embarrassed about, because in some ways, the process of talking with our members about the need for this and what it could mean, in some ways, it has even more power than the event itself.
Gil, how do you respond to people who say that this makes the labor movement look weak?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that people fully appreciate that there is no button to push. There's no general strike button. And I think all people have to recognize that there are consequences, right? So we saw with Bill 2, the government introduced very heavy fines for teachers should they defy the back to work legislation, $500 a day for individuals, $500,000 a day for the teachers, for the Teachers Association. Similar fines exist in the labor code for what would be described as illegal strikes. And so we can't take this lightly. We're talking about people's livelihoods. And I want to make it clear, we made a commitment, and it's a historic commitment, that we will escalate towards a general strike. But I'm actually excited by the opportunity to use this process to have conversations with our members, with non-union workers, with allies, about what's at stake with this government and what's possible if we all pull together. And honestly, I'm very hopeful. I mean, just look at what's been happening. And like yesterday was a bittersweet day for teachers because they were forced back to work under the threat of severe sanctions. But on the same day, 450,000 Albertans spoke out through the Forever Canadian campaign and basically thumbed their nose at Danielle Smith and her, her quasi-separatist agenda, right? So those are our allies. That's our tribe. I mean, the UCP may have a narrow majority in the legislature, but they certainly don't have a majority in the province. And so that's our task over the next few months, is to mobilize that majority, the progressive pro-Canadian anti-UCP majority, and mobilize them. And our contribution to that mobilization will be work towards a general strike.
Okay. Danielle Smith threw down the gauntlet in front of you. There's no doubt she challenged you, and you now have to back off a little bit. And how then do you crank up the machinery so that it looks like this is not a political loss for labor, and in fact you're going to come back? And because I think there's a universal agreement that the use of the Notwithstanding Clause is an attack on the Constitution and democratic rights in Canada. So this can't go unanswered. But
it won't go unanswered.
When do you start answering it, and answering it in scale?
Yeah. Well, we will start answering it by changing the political landscape in this province, and that starts by talking to our members. And the whole idea of a general strike gives us a platform and a forum for those conversations. I think it's like this notion that that union members are like firefighters waiting in a hall somewhere for the alarm to sound, and then they go off to fight the fire. That's not the way it works. I mean, like, our members are workers, and they have jobs, and they have families, and they have mortgages, and they have commitments. And something like even a legal strike involves people going without income to make a point. In the case of a general strike, not only would they be going out without income, but they also face the possibility of fines. And I want to stress that point because, like, governments in Canada are scared of workers, and they're scared of what can happen when we act collectively. Rich people and the politicians who cater to them, they have power, and from money or from connections. Working people, our power comes from pulling together, standing up for each other, standing up for ourselves, standing up for the things that we believe together. But it's collective action. And so successive governments, whether it's here in Alberta or at the federal level, they've bent over backwards. They've gone out of their way to tie us up in knots. And honestly, that's what this fight with the teachers is all about. They're going after the freedom of association. That's what they took away from the teachers, right? And successive governments have introduced these huge fines because they're scared of us. They're scared of the way that the power that we have when we pull together and act collectively. So, but the fines are real. And as I said at the press conference today, if we're going to do this, and I think we will, it has to be so big and so bold that they can't put all of us in jail. That's the only legal protection that we've got. We don't have, the laws are not on our side. We have to be on each other's side, right? And so it has to be so big that they can't throw us all in jail. It has to be so big that they can't possibly fine 400,000 people, that the system would break down. That's our defense, right? And so I'm not going to put anyone in jeopardy until I know that we can mobilize that kind of effort.
Give me a timeline, Gil. Is this a week, a month, 6 months? What do you think?
Well, I'll be honest with you. If the teachers had stayed out, if they had defied, it would have been a matter of days that would have mobilized for. But I understand like the teachers made a decision to go back. That's their decision to make, and we respect it. But now that they have, we actually have the luxury of a little bit more time. And so, which is a good thing, actually. So, because, we have there's about 500,000 unionized workers in this province, and dozens and dozens of unions and hundreds of locals, and that's a lot of organizing work, right? But we've like all the unions who are part of the Common Front, who are signatory to what we call the Solidarity Pact, we committed to support each other in bargaining, but now we've committed to each other to support each other conversations that need to be had up to and including a general strike. And so we're going to take our time to have the conversations. And honestly, this is kind of, with due respect, I mean, people are saying this is a sign of weakness, but what I would suggest that this is actually Danielle Smith and the UCP's worst nightmare, because we're going to have conversations to change people's minds. That's what democracy is about. It's about persuasion, right? Laying the facts out, having good conversations. And now that she's basically stripped workers of their most fundamental right, which is the right to associate, take collective action and support each other, she's taken that away from us. Now she's given us the perfect entree to a conversation with 500,000 members, right? So, no, we're not hitting the bricks right now, but we're starting conversations which are going to be like a political earthquake in this province.
I'm going to come back at you on this. Humor me, Gil. A week,
Yeah.
a month, 6 months? Give my viewers a bit of a timeline here.
I can't say because we have like anyone who's been involved in organizing an event, from a wedding to a graduation. I want you to put this in context, okay? 500,000 unionized workers in the province. We've never done this before. I mean, it's in the history books. Like the last big general strike in Canada was in Winnipeg in 1919. So it's been more than 100 years since we've done this. And we actually have very restrictive laws compared to other Western democracies. Like the reason they have general strikes in Italy and France is because those kind of things are considered extensions of their democratic rights to freedom of expression and association. We don't have that here, especially now with all these fines from the UCP. So, it's going to take time. We're not saying no, but we want to do it right. We want to do it big, and we want to use the opportunity, the organizing opportunity. This is an organizing moment. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity for us to get the attention of working people in this province and say they deserve better. And so Danielle Smith, in a way, has helped us out. She's given us clarity. She's given us a target. She's given us a platform, and we're going to have conversations about why this province needs a worker agenda, not a MAGA-inspired UCP agenda.
Well, Gil, thank you very much for this, and we'll be checking in with you to see what kind of progress you're making.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks very much, Markham.